Welcome back to the Death Row and Executions channel. I'm Paco Rivera. You can also follow me on Facebook for updates and more Death Row news. There will be a link to my Facebook in the description below. Also, check out my other channel here on YouTube called The Maximum Sentence, where I cover recent crimes and convictions. There will be a link for that as well. In 1997, James Dennis Ford, the death row inmate scheduled to be executed on February 13th, and Greg Malnory, one of the victims in this case, were co-workers on a 7,000-acre sod farm in Charlotte County, Florida. If you're not familiar with sod farms, it's simply a place that produces patches of grass with soil, which can be bought at Home Depot or Lowe's or many other places. Instead of spreading grass seeds, you can lay sod patches wherever you want grass. Ford, who was 36 years old in 1997, and Greg, who was 25, had made plans to go fishing together on a Sunday, April 6th. 1997, in a pond right there at the sod farm where they worked. Greg had also taken along his 26-year-old wife, Kimberly, and their 22-month-old daughter, Miranda. Sometime later that day, Sunday, April 6th, after the fishing trip at the sod farm, James Ford was driving home in his red pickup truck but ran out of gas. He managed to get some help from friends that used chains to haul his pickup truck to a gas station. On the following day, now Monday, April 7, another employee of the sod farm saw something unusual. A blue pickup truck belonging to Greg Malnory was parked out in the middle of the field. What was unusual about that is that he had seen it in that same exact spot the day before, on Sunday. And he knew it belonged to Greg Malnory, who the managers at the sod farm had been trying to reach all morning because the very reliable employee had not shown up for work. And upon further inspection near the pickup truck, the employee discovered a gruesome scene: the battered and dead body of Kimberly Malnory, Greg's wife. A medical examiner would later determine that she had suffered blunt force trauma injuries to her head. The bathing suit Kim was wearing was obviously sliced off of her with a knife, and the presence of semen was found inside her. Kim was then shot after she was indecently assaulted, according to the medical examiner. Some distance away from the pickup truck was the body of Greg Malnory. It appeared he was first shot in the head, but that only disabled him, and he tried to run from the area. That's when he was shot in the back and fell. The assailant then beat him severely with a blunt force object and sliced his throat with a knife. When authorities arrived, they also found a 22-month-old child still alive, the daughter of Greg and Kim, strapped into a car seat inside the pickup truck. When it was determined that the crime happened the previous day, about 18 hours earlier, they realized that child had been inside that pickup truck unattended by anyone that whole time, about 18 hours alone in a pickup truck. Thank God the doors to the truck were found wide open, or the child might not have survived. She did suffer a lot of mosquito bites all over her body during the night. When you look at the evidence in this case, you would think that James Dennis Ford literally had a death wish and wanted to be sent to death row. Remember, this was 1997. By this time, everybody was hearing about DNA science. Listen to this. James Ford was seen together with Greg and Kimberly by multiple witnesses just prior to the killings. Ford was seen later that day by friends that helped tow his pickup truck with blood on his face, hands, and clothing. When asked about it, he told his friends that he had just killed a pig. He was seen the next day with scratches on his face. A .22 caliber rifle that authorities found in a drainage ditch near the gas station where Ford was getting gas for his vehicle, and was proven by ballistics to be the murder weapon, was a rifle registered to Ford. Blood found on a knife found in Ford's bedroom in his house in Arcadia, Florida. was proven by DNA to be Greg Malnory's blood. Semen found in Kim's body and on her shirt was proven to be Ford's DNA. Talk about a slam dunk case. Greg Malnory had moved from Detroit, Michigan to Charlotte County, Florida as a child. He met Kimberly Ann Parkinson in high school, and they were, in fact, high school sweethearts that later married and had their only child, a daughter named Miranda. Friends and family say that Greg and Kim did not use drugs, had no enemies, and were very faithful to each other, and that their number one priority was their daughter, Miranda, and family. Greg had a passion for fishing, which is why in the days before the tragic murders, he had bought a new fishing pole for himself and got one for his wife, Kim, after learning that the pond where he worked on the sod farm was a great spot to go fishing. Employees at the sod farm that were interviewed had later stated that they never saw any type of quarrel or animosity between co-workers Greg Malnory and James Ford. Everyone said that they appeared to get along great. Some have speculated, however, that they did believe James Ford had a passionate obsession for Greg's wife, Kimberly. I did communicate with Miranda recently on Facebook Messenger. Miranda will be 30 years old this coming May and still lives in Charlotte County, Florida, where she was raised by her grandparents. Miranda asked to reiterate how she prefers this presentation not be called the James Ford case. She says it's important to remember my mom and dad, not him. As I mentioned earlier, James Ford lived in a home in Arcadia, Florida. Also living in Arcadia, in a rundown area of the town, was Ford's 21-year-old cousin, Kellie Jo Krum, and her 8-month-old baby daughter, Kelsi. By August 11 of the year 1994, about 3 years before James Ford murdered Greg and Kim Malnory, Kellie Jo had packed her bags while planning to move away from that awful neighborhood to move in with her mom in Sebring, Florida. While Kellie Jo was in the process of packing, she was visited by her cousin, James Dennis Ford. And then suddenly, poof, both Kellie Jo and baby Kelsi vanished, never to be seen again. All her packed stuff still in her home. As the last known person to see Kellie Jo and baby Kelsi alive, law enforcement in Florida has always suspected James Ford of foul play in their disappearance, but he was never charged. After seeing what he was capable of following the murders of Greg and Kim Malnory 3 years later, those suspicions took on even greater significance. He has been interviewed, and even though he's practically on his deathbed, in a sense, he continues to deny any involvement in his cousin's disappearance. In the meantime, Florida still has Kellie Jo and baby Kelsi listed as missing persons. After learning that James Ford will be executed in February, family and dear friends of Kellie Jo and baby Kelsi have recently posted comments on social media of how they hope and pray that James Ford does the right thing and discloses the location of those bodies. There are actually 2 executions scheduled on that day, Thursday, February 13th. James Dennis Ford in Florida and Richard Lee Tabler in Texas. The case of Richard Tabler should appear on this channel in a few days. Please remember to hit the subscribe button for more death row and upcoming execution stories so that you are alerted when the next one comes out. You can also follow me on Facebook for updates. There will be a link to my Facebook in the description below. My name is Paco Rivera. Thank you for watching. Take care and bye for now.